Hello, everybody. My name is Dio Morales, your host of the Gold Squadron Podcast. We're coming to you live from episode 190 of the Gold Squadron Podcast. And today, I'm joined by Marcel. Beard is absent because manscaping works.
Because I'm the only one taking it serious here.
Will, everything is in virtual reality? Haywood.
So close to just be in the Matrix here soon.
And Ryan, the next golden era of Star Wars video games incoming? Staniszewski.
Exclusivity is not only on EA anymore. Doesn't mean EA made bad games, but more opportunities in the future. Could mean a golden age.
I heard competition is good.
It is.
Crazy.
It hasn't been for Marvel, but hopefully it is for Star Wars.
Well, we'll end up seeing what's up. So, announcements today. Our podcast today is brought to you by the Gold Squadron Flight Club Championships. Our first qualifier is this upcoming weekend. If you haven't signed up yet, you still have, by now, 6 days, maybe 5 days by the time you're listening to this. It is January 23rd. So make sure, get your tickets now, goldsquadronpodcast.com. The first qualifier, like I said, is January 23rd, and don't miss your first opportunity to earn that ace badge. Also, last night on the YouTube channel, I uploaded a video to show you each of the steps you needed to take to complete your registration. We have about 30% of the people who've completed about half of the registration and missed some of the steps because reading is hard. I totally get it, so I made you a video just to kind of help you through the steps to double check yourself. So make sure to take a look at that. Before you ask me a question, watch the video. All right? So I have answered almost all the questions I've seen that are already in the PDFs, but in video form already. I got you, fam. No worries. Okay, so today, Republic deep dive. Like, we're looking at ships, we're looking at pilots, we're looking at upgrades. Oh my goodness. We're going deep. And we're not just doing our standard thing. This is nothing you've known before. Guys, this is in 3D, okay? This is in 3D today. Yes. Instead of our previous ways, we figured out a way for us to do this via tabletop simulator. So super excited to do this and be a little bit more interactive with my guys while we do this. All right, so we're going to be starting with, of course, who's that? Is that Marcel being mischievous right away? Okay, so we're going to be starting with taking a look at our ships. So in the Republic, currently we have 8 different ship chassis. We'll go ahead and grab them and bring them right here to the center. For anybody who doesn't know, whoops, wrong view. There you go. For anybody who doesn't know what the ships are, right there, we're going to start by simply ranking them within their, we're ranking the ships first before we even talk about specific pilots, because there might be specific pilots that are a higher tier than the ship itself. But we're going to start with just the ships. Ryan, we're going to kind of do this draft style. Pick a ship and go ahead and put it in its tier and tell us why.
All right. I think I'm going to start with something that I think most people may not agree with, because I think they're undervaluing it, or they're just now getting its value. I think the LAT is A tier minimum.
Ooh.
Because that fire convergence ability is very, very good. And it has a base chassis that has a lot of upgrade slots that you could take with minimal crew cost, with minimal gunner cost, or beef it up a little bit. There's plenty of pilots that are interesting with abilities, but man, that fire convergence chassis alone is making LATs almost a staple in my list building when I'm doing Republic. If I'm including Jedi, why do I need to take target locks anymore? Neat. It's an all-around powerful ship and I think a lot of people miss this small opportunity of the fact that fire convergence works on ships in its firing arc. So if you have it at a lower initiative than the other ships you're supporting, that's okay. It's actually, as a medium base, a pretty good like blocker or area disruptor, just because it's a bigger base. You don't really care for it to get the shots, and if a ship bumps into it and it's still in its arc, you're still helping your other ships with fire conversions. So I've seen it used against me to great effect, and I've seen it used to great effect as well when I was trying it out. And this thing, as long as it flies over, I don't care if it has to land on a rock, a debris, or a gas cloud. If it gets the block or gets the angle that I need, that'll do what it needs to do. It's got enough health to stick around for a while. Its only small downside is it a lot of times ends up being, depending on how many ships you have on your list, you know me, I tend to go 4 more at a minimum. That ship is probably the most expensive ship in the list. So you may feel like you're not getting as much bang for the buck out of it on an average with the whole chassis, but as long as it helps out with the fire conversions with the ships and makes those ships perform even better, it makes the overall squadron perform at a higher rate.
All right. Love it. Lat A tier. Will, take whichever one you want next.
All right, I'm taking an easy one. Or I wouldn't say easy, I would say less controversial. And I'm taking the 7B right now. It's just Delta 7, not the 7B. The Aether Sprite. And I'm also putting it into A tier. No. You want me to do the configurations too?
I mean, just you get there. You'll get there. It's part of the ship.
It is part. It is really part of the ship, and it really has that duality of trying to be 2 different ships, especially early on in the faction when they didn't have too many ships. They needed a way for the Aether Sprite to kind of fill multiple roles. The light 3 agility fighter and the calibrated or the big heavy hitter, similar to an X-wing in the 7B. There, I think. Well, 7Bs haven't been favored lately for the higher initiative, just because of pricing. I think that alone, the calibrated laser targeting version of this ship, and essentially all naked versions, which I don't think I don't know if anyone is, but you should not fly these things naked. First card should be the calibrated laser targeting. But that goes for most ships with specific configurations. But the sheer versatility, we've actually seen in 4 and 5 Jedi Knights, the lowest initiative for the chassis, perform exceedingly well with the calibrated laser targeting. We've seen previously the aces for the 7B be very, very successful. Now I think it's teetered to just like Obi-Wan and maybe some CLT Anakins that fill in that kind of ace role. But the fact that it can double reposition utilizing the Force is very strong on high initiatives, and low initiatives even can take advantage of it for blocking purposes. Every ship or every pilot has the Force, which is pretty good. I would consider that part of the chassis, that it is for Force pilots only. The fact that it is fast, can double reposition, can hit hard with either configuration, and not only it's not just the named pilots that are doing well, even the generics. See, this might be a stretch, but I think we're actually seeing more generics flown of this chassis because it's so efficient for its point cost.
I think people are definitely looking at them now because they're the only hyperspace ones that are legal, right?
Oh, that
is that generic? So people are kind of being forced to fly them, and even if they're in extended events, like, hey, I've already used to, like, hyperspace lists are extended legal as well, so why not move it over? Now, here's my question for you, Will. We got 2 configurations here. Do you think one could be slotted in the S tier and one in the A tier? Or do you think they're both A tier?
If anything, 7B is going in the B tier. If anything, it looks more
Oh,
like this.
interesting. I see.
Well, these are some fighting words here, man.
These
These are some serious fighting words. I would say calibrated is S, Delta 7 is A,
All right, here. Let's
the
have
chassis
these.
itself is like stuck right in between S and A, because it is hands down the best ship in the faction, and is the
can't
closest thing you get to an S.
I really can't argue against that. Putting calibrated in the S tier, because like I said, I did say it was an auto include that you should not fly this chassis with at least a configuration, but at least calibrated laser targeting. It's maybe 2 points for some pilots, and it ups them from that standard two attack dice ship to a true 3 attack dice ship. Even better than rolling that 3rd attack dice by adding that. So I struggle to argue against it in S tier. Now 7B and A tier, I don't know, man. I don't know. It turns out the Force is best used on defense, anyways, and I don't like having just 2 agility when I got all these dice modifiers.
All right, here. Let's do something real quick. Everybody, go ahead and grab a copy of CLT and 7B and put it where you think it should go. We're voting. You got A and a half. You can go on the line if you want to, Ryan. Oh, you want to push that one up? Okay.
I'll do that too, because I agree with him. That 7B hits so good.
Why is it S tier? Just that it has white target lock and force.
No, because you get 3 health, 3 shields, you get double reposition, you get modifiers, and
So here's my question though: hold on, Marcel? But are you projecting? Remember, we're talking about the chassis right now. Are you projecting Obi-Wan Kenobi? And I'm going to say Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I would say Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Aether Sprite, S tier. When we get to it, I don't think there's any argument. But can you really say like
Ahsoka,
Plo Koon, like,
and then the generics with coordinating one another, or you get 4 generics with calibrated and then Shakti or Hound's Tooth to support that. I mean, there is a lot of goodness.
That's right. I just think you might be projecting the S tier from your experience with what is honestly one pilot. I'm not throwing shade. I'm simply, come on.
No, because I said Ahsoka. Ahsoka is good, especially with C10. So you give her calibrated and chopper. You give her.
Okay, so you haven't talked about 7B yet. Continue.
Oh, you're talking about 7B?
Yeah, because I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing about CLT. I put it as tier as well.
7Bs in hyperspace. Like I've been the list that Ryan put together, that Ryan mentioned 2 weeks ago, that I put together in last week's list of the week or whatever it was. They're actually not. They're pretty good. I would say probably A. Yeah, I wouldn't say S tier, but they are definitely good. Like the generics with just 7B. They hit hard, and if they get rerolls, force, double repositioning,
if they get support.
Everything else relies on something else. I mean, you're not going to put Vader up there, who's definitely S, and just say, "Hey, Vader, go solo this swarm." He's not going to do it. Everybody needs some level of support. Same thing with Wedge. Wedge is an amazing ship, but if you just throw Wedge by itself, it's going to be a dud.
So Dion, along your thought process, the value or efficient 7Bs pilot-wise, we're thinking Obi-Wan's always there, right? Plo Koon has been used effectively. We've seen that. We've seen Ahsoka, I think, a little bit, but it might have been in a different points format, so I don't know what she's like now. We've seen Jedi Knights recently, because they are the only ones in hyperspace that can use 7B anyway. in any Aether Sprite. Now, to that same thought process, we don't ever see Stacey Tin. We don't ever see Barris off. Well, besides Tommy Adams, we don't ever see Barris Offee.
Yeah.
Shout out Tommy on that one. We rarely see Anakin. Very rarely.
I think
Luminara-
it's just a cost problems for him.
And Luminara, we only see I think with CLT because she's a little more supportive, and you want that cheap sensor jammer type ability.
Mm-hmm.
So even with CLT or 7B, you're still seeing the same pilots anyway. So if the argument is CLT is allowed to be an S, but you lose all these pilots that don't have them, but the argument with 7B is that same thing. We're like, oh, you only see it with these pilots. It's because those pilots are the same ones used across the board, no matter which one you're putting on them anyway. True.
All right. So after hearing all the rebuttals, Will, you're gonna what do you want to do? This is your ship.
I'll concede my point that fine, 7B doesn't make the chassis worse. All right, that's a strong opinion. But we'll leave it as I think that the 7B doesn't improve the base chassis.
You want to do one of those, like on the middle between A and B?
No. Just like this, locking them in.
Lock it in.
That 7B doesn't might be in most people's minds the default for this, but I personally don't think it adds an exceeding amount of utility to the ship. Just does its job better, right? It's essentially just a gun on your ship. But I think calibrated excels in improving the overall chassis. And I think that's what deserves the differentiation. You know what I'm trying to say. To putting the calibrated version of the Aether Sprite into the S tier.
Cool. All right. Let's keep it rolling. Marcel, what you got?
Okay. And I don't disagree with this. Let's move this to the side so I can get some space. Actually, we ain't gonna put anything else on SL here. So let's just put that one down here, though. There we go. So let me go with my other buddy that I like to fly with that, and my favorite ship in the faction. I'm gonna throw my Naboo Starfighter here, and I know I'll actually definitely. You get the free evade. You get 5 health. You get regen went down again, so you actually get a very cheap regen again of 5 points. Rick Oli and Anakin, baby Anakin, are just really good. They're well costed, especially for this faction. I actually been getting a lot of value out of I forget the dude's name, but the Initiative 3 one. Turns out when you fly Rick and Desiree, the Ellerby?
Elberger.
Ellerby, let's call him Ellerby. So Ellerby and Rick, if they both do 3.
Who are you talking about?
The one that if you roll the same speed, then it turns him into midnight. You can't modify attack or defense dice with him. As long as you go the same speed. That people don't see how good of an ability that is. It's really good ability.
Zane Elberger, while you defend or perform an attack, if the speed of your revealed maneuver is the same as the enemy ship's, that ship's dice cannot be modified.
Yep, so they can't modify an attack or defense. And it works against everyone. I've done it a few times already where I flew Annie, Rick, and Ellerby, or whatever his name is, with all 3 of them with regen and proton torpedoes on all 3 and passive sensors and juke. You can actually fit all that on all 3 of them except no passive sensors on Rick. So you get 3 regens, 3 proton torpedoes, passive sensors, juke, and it's not as bad as you would think. So the fact that you can take 3 of them, and I haven't lost with it yet, but then again, I also haven't played anything that's like net listing meta with it. But that tells me it's definitely an A. If I can just fly nothing but this ship and still win at least all the games I've played with it. And I got a soft spot for Baby Annie. That's my Rick is nice too, but Baby Annie's my guy. When you can barrel roll twice in the same turn, how can you hate on that, right?
All right. Okay, I'm
I
gonna
will
go.
contest one thing about that.
Go for it.
So you make a couple points on some people and some pilots in that chassis that aren't commonly used. I think Padme is seeing a little more play. She's very meta dependent. The less, I mean, even against Swarm, she can be really effective. So it's hard, but we just haven't seen her cost and mix of ship put together well. We've seen Lil Annie do well. I feel like we've seen a little bit of a downturn in Rick being used in support of Little Annie. How much? What is that? 2 main pilots potentially out of 5 of the chassis. I mean, the chassis ability is good. Full throttle, we know is good. Its attack power base is something to be like it's subpar with 2 at times. Do we? I don't know, Will. What do you think? Does N1 Starfighter feel A tier, or does it feel more B tier? Because we got to think about the other factions we've done before, right? There's not a lot of pilots we're using on this chassis.
Yeah, that's the first question I have is Marcel. What are you going to put on a Bravo flight officer for this chassis?
Passive plus some type of torpedo.
When have you done it?
Actually, you can get passive. They're 42. With passive, you get 46, and then you throw some ions on there at 4 because they went down. So I think that's 42, 44, 48 points. And it's huh?
Yeah, healing on there or something?
No, aren't they? Or what are they? How many points are they?
33. So 39 with ion torps.
Yeah, so 39 points for an ion torp carrier that has an evade and then shoots 4 dice at range 2 and 3 for 39 points. It makes them a target. So, yeah, or even if you just have them flying around, just being a nuisance. But for the points that they're at, yeah, hey, who's moving?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just that's my biggest concern is that sure we see Rick because Rick can shoot 3 attack dice, right? Or 4 even. And Padme's got good support.
Padme's fine. The only thing that I don't like is the handmaidens points. The handmaidens are too expensive, maybe by like 3 points each, or maybe even 4 points each. I mean, they should be the same price as Danae or LRB or whatever. But
that is one thing that's mentioned in the chat by Don Fani. It's seemingly notorious that the time on target for N1s is pretty bad in most cases, unless you dump a lot of points into upgrades and do some Daredevil or do some other stuff, some advanced sensors. I know you, Marcel. I know where you're going with this. But base, chassis, ship, I know you can put a ton of upgrades on. I actually like the idea. I'm going to see if I can put in that Bravo flight officer with passive and ion torpedo. That's now that it's only 4 points. Seems like something worth trying. So there's things that look like they're worth trying, but there's very few proven commodities. That's my thing.
Yeah, and again, I don't. I just think the ships that I'll fly. Again, mostly it's those 3 that I personally like. I've used Padme just here and there just for funsies, but I don't like her that much. For me, that I the only 2 ships that actually 3 because I do think that support ship. Those 3 ships I think are the only ones that belong anywhere in that playable list. Everything else is just for fun. It's like unless you're doing a bunch of V19s, with a Warthog or something like that. It's the Warthog that's making them good, not the other way around.
We'll get there in a minute. I'm kind of in the boat, honestly, with Ryan. I really think that overall as a chassis, that the N1 is in B overall. I think that there are definitely A tier pilots, maybe even
So,
arguably S tier pilots.
So I'll go with this. I'll rewind back to when Will was on and said, "Okay, well, you heard all of our
I mean, you
reasoning.
heard
It's
you
your
heard.
ship.
I had to give my 2 cents. You can leave
you
it
go.
in the A. I think you're
Let me
wrong.
stamp it a little more. Let me even get it closer here. It's
Oh,
still in the A, but
Just watch when we actually rank the pilots and see a majority of them are actually B or C tier.
right.
Probably, but the ones that I'm gonna fly in this chassis.
But that's not the question.
That's
this is not
not
the
the
Marcel
that's not
Manzano flying rankings.
No.
Marcel, you're having a hard time just
No, I get what you're
switching
saying. I get what you're
the
saying.
pilot from the chassis.
I'll take all the generics in our next one, Dion. Okay, let's fight.
I got an idea for Wednesday. I'm gonna get you. I want to get you.
Wow.
I got an idea for
I'm all
Wednesday.
set. Yeah, give me all the A tiers. I'll take the A tiers.
All right, my turn. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna grab, I think, which is probably the easiest one out here. The V-wing. The V-wing has not really found its place yet in X-wing, and I think one of the problems is it has a direct competitor in the faction, and that is the Torrent. Like they function in the same points wise. Now the aces on here have some potential. Specifically, I'm gonna say I am click curious, just because the ability has shown itself here and there to be good. But I don't know if it has a spot yet where it really is shining. I'm not sure if it's a points thing or if it's finding the right combo. Right now, as a chassis, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab the V-Wing and place it in C, with the caveat that I think Click is going to end up being our best pilot out of here. And, also, one of the things I'm sure we'll get to it when we start looking at the cards here is that let me go ahead and pull this up. When we look at the action bar, like it really wants a reposition into focus. Like I think that would be a really great, except for Click, because Click's ability works on target lock. But I think other than him, the boost into target lock really minimizes the durability of the chassis, and I think that's why I'm going to go ahead and put it into C tier. All right, back to you, Ryan.
Okay. What's more fun?
Oh, wait a second. I forgot something. We got to talk about the configs on these.
Oh, yeah.
My bad.
Get those out of there.
Okay. So, the configuration. So we have 2 of them, right? We have the ESC and we have the BESH. All right, so ESC, while you perform a primary attack, before rolling attack die, you may spend 2 charges. If you do, your crit results inflict ion damage instead. I think interesting, but I repeat the saying that I think overall the chassis is too expensive. I think this, if the cost comes down, the lowest initiative with ESC will end up being a great tool. Right now, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab this and leave that in the C tier. Besh, while you perform a primary attack, you may spend your lock on the defender to change one of your blank or IRL results to a hit. I think this one has a little bit better value, though it is a little bit more expensive. You also get that bomb slot, which is interesting, especially with being able to boost beforehand. So the configuration itself, I think, is B tier, has some potential depending on where the costs go. Now to you, Ryan.
Okay. Base chassis itself. I am also going to grab the other medium base ship, the ARC 170. We've seen it perform well, nothing too crazy across the board. It has some standout pilots here and there. Let's see, let me count. Wolf, Sinker has seen some usage, but it's probably going to see less usage now the LATs exist. We've seen plenty of generics used. We actually saw it was Anakin in the ETA and 3 ARCs in a final. I feel like when you look at the ARC 170 and the Republic, it is your X-Wing / B-Wing, like Rebel style. Like, this is your beef with some numbers, but these can also take up space and they have time on target. Who's holding that? Give me that.
I'm just putting it in the center for the viewers.
Oh, okay. Man, it's A or B in my mind. It's just a matter of it's kind of on that line. I actually am curious to hear from you guys first before I make my final decision, because I think I know where I'm leaning, and I kind of want to put it in A because it has had success. But if anyone has any reasons as to why it should be in B, I'd be curious.
I think the reasons you've seen success with it is because it does bring two important things to the Republic faction that no other ship can do. And that's health mixed with consistent attack power and arcs. Sure, the Y-Wing can shoot attack power and sure can have a second arc, but it just doesn't perform like the 3 dice primary out the front of the arc. I think that's why we've been seeing them have success, is that there's almost no other way to get that 3 dice gun in Republic. Plus, the amount of health that it brings has really provided something to just be shot at, essentially, if that makes any sense. Like, it's the opposite thinking of like the triple aces, where the enemy's going to shoot something. The enemy's going to take something down, so you might as well give them something that they're going to have to chew through. And I just think it stands out in the faction because of that. Now, does that mean it deserves A tier? I don't know, but those are certainly the strengths that it brings. Though I do think that the rear arc is underutilized. People don't really think about it. It's definitely like an emergency option. You don't plan to shoot your rear arc, but it's nice to have.
I look at the arcs, and I kind of see them as your base topping. Like, I feel like it is vanilla. Like it is a staple. It's good. It works, but doesn't always by itself have what you need to take it over the top. And if you put yourself in a bad situation, that one agility can absolutely destroy you and you lose them right away. It's really dependent on what's built around it. The chassis by itself, I would say, besides Wolf, it doesn't really sit well by itself.
But does that make it better that you're more likely to see an efficient generic because the chassis is efficient? Like a naked generic means that the chassis is good? Is that really
I don't know if the chassis is good, more so than the faction doesn't have other options. That's probably the way I would lean. But let me ask you, Ryan, you said you were leaning towards A?
I think so, because kind of on Will's argument, the base chassis with the generics, albeit could be more of a cost thing, and maybe the named are a little bit too high cost, at least some of them. Maybe Wolf is well costed because he still sees play, but maybe other pilots such as Oddball or Jag a little bit too high, because the generics are still taken in high numbers because they're workhorse,
42, right?
They're reliable. And when paired with, we've seen multiple iterations back when Republic first came out, 3 arcs and 7B Obi. Now we're seeing 3 arcs and ETA Anakin or other variations of such. We've seen 3 arcs Warthog, 7B or the 7th Fleet Gunner, powering them up. Super powerful shots, stuff like that.
So I'll make a deal with you because I'm actually like this ship as well. The generic, definitely at 42 points, I think it brings a lot that the faction doesn't need. So I'll do a barter with you.
Does it have to deal with the N1 staying where it is?
No, actually, I choose that 100%. That was that.
No, I know.
Those are the rules. But I'll let you move it around. What I'm gonna do is, if I'm honestly thinking like, what would I take a 39 point evade proton this, or would I take an arc for 3 additional points? I might take the arc but also then when you look at the high end potential, I think the Naboo's have a little bit more tools and more things that they can do. So I'm going to marry it together. So wherever you put that one, if you put it in A, then it's staying in A. If you put it in B, I'll drag it down to B with it.
I mean, that never mattered to me that much, I think.
But I'm telling you, like,
proposition.
because I view it in the same
That's
way.
fine.
Like
I don't hate. I don't dislike where you put the N1 so much to where I would sacrifice where I'd put the arc, I guess, if that matters. I think the arc is fine today. I think it's hard to go against a workhorse chassis in any faction. It's always going to be something that you can slot in and test for its reliability and how it works within your list.
All right. Will, you're up.
Okay, what do we got left here? Whew. Oh man, let me try to think about where I would even start to put these guys.
So we have left the ETA-2, the Torrent, and the Y-Wing, the BTLB Y-Wing.
All right, so I'm going to take the Ada. It's not ETA, it's Ada. It's not an estimated time for arrival. It's the Ada Aether Sprite. All right, so new on the scene, things that the chassis has, and I really got to compare it to a lot to this, right? We really not to bring this down to B. We'll keep that A. But the obvious comparisons between the calibrated laser targeting, the 3 agility, Aether Sprite, draws obvious comparisons. Okay, but the chassis itself lacks the double reposition. It lacks natural shields. It does come standard with a calibrated laser targeting type of bullseye weapon. So that's basically a wash on that. And it just has arguably the other than our beautiful Shakti here, arguably the pilots for it have worse abilities. So I cannot, in good faith, put this equal to the Aether Sprite chassis. Now, can the Ada outperform the Aether Sprite? Of course. We've seen the high-end pilots, Anakin, with utilizing the cannon of this ship with the Auto Blaster to really do some nasty things to ships by just forcing crits down their throat. The generics, every ship does have double force. Or excuse me, every pilot for this ship has double force. And I don't know if, while it doesn't have the double reposition after the dial, it does have pre-dial reposition, which is very good, especially for a generic, or even for creating space for your higher initiative ships. But because of the varying, what do I want to say, success of most of the pilots, and the fact that the chassis itself isn't exceeding our expectations for sure. You definitely need to invest into, find a droid, find a cannon, get that right talent slot or force use combination. I just think that it has potential, but is currently outshined by just a CLT. So I'm going to actually put it into the B tier overall.
Yeah, there is a conversation I want to have when we get to looking at the individual pilots about how people are list building and flying the Ada-2. I have a couple of thoughts on that, but yeah, I agree with that B tier assessment, Will. All right, Marcel, we got 2 left. What are you taking?
All right. let's go with this one. And I think people are gonna not like my choice with the Y-wing. So I'll go with the Y-wing. Um, you know, I've been looking at this and then thinking to myself, we are talking about definitely an extended, possibly different in hyperspace, but in extended, we are talking about the worst faction in extended. We are. I see Ryan making a look, but
In our rankings, I believe average the Republic was on the bottom.
yeah, and extended, and then in hyperspace it gets a little bit better. Not so much because these ships get better, but because the rest of the factions get worse. So I'm going to say I'm not a fan of the Y-wing. I'm going to put I actually do fly the Y-wing sometimes, but I'm not a huge fan. I'm going to throw it down there. I am going to drag this. I was trying to use Ryan as a to give me the out to drag it down, but he didn't give me the out, so I'll drag it down myself. I actually thought about it a little more. I do love Rick and Anakin. I think they are A ships that have the potential to be S with the right combinations and pilots behind them.
All right, so just real quick, for anybody who's just listening, Marcel just dragged the Naboo down to B tier.
Our consciousness finally got to Marcel. All of our group think finally made it over to his brainwaves.
This is like the one time we had this happen.
But it wasn't your. It is the one time, huh? Conformity. What's happening with me? But
2021 means we will win.
It's not the reason why you think. Actually, the real reason, like what struck me is, we are talking about the worst faction and extended, and yet we were struggling with like the Empire and some of the other ones to throw ships in A. We were putting ships in the Empire down to B, and I was like, that's a really good ship in B. So if within, I still think that like I personally feel like I can take a Delta and two of these or one of these and two of those and go 5-1 in a tournament. Like, but that's like one pilot or two pilots and just getting a little bit of decent matchups. Like, it's not going to be every matchup. Anyway, so I'm going to throw that back down there, and you guys can say it's your collective. It's pure pressure. But the Y-wing, and actually the Y-wing, it's I'm going to put it down there. Just because I don't think it's as good as it's fine. Like you throw a broadside, matchstick, even Goji. I like Goji with concussion bombs or thermals and delayed fuse. It's actually works really nice when you give other ships extra agility. But it's just not if I'm comparing it to the ETA or the Naboo, it's way better. The Naboo and the ETA sorry, William. The Naboo and the ETA are way better than the Y-wing. So anyway, so that's where I'm gonna put it. I think it's fine. I think if you fly it, you probably got one in a list. Because you got points for it and you want to get an ion out there. But other than that, it's not great.
Yeah, no, I agree. Seems right. Just like the V-wing, like click V-wing, broadside Y-wing. There's some other pilots you can meddle with, but there's one clear cut. This is the pilot for the ship.
Yep.
But the rest of it is very meh. Goji has seen some effectiveness, but I think that's because they couldn't fit broadside. If they could fit broadside, they'd probably take it, in my mind.
Right.
I would do. But other people, there are other thoughts and reasons why Goji may have worked for their own lists.
All righty. Last but not least, we go ahead and grab the Torrents. So we compared the Torrent a little bit to the V-Wing. It's a generic. You take a look at the higher initiative ships. People don't fly them because their abilities with the chassis don't really jive. They don't work really well. They are a missile carrier. Now with thread tracers, we might see them a little bit more, especially you might even consider, depending on what the initiative of the rest of your ships are in your list, that we might actually end up getting more higher generic Torrents because the costs on them did go down. I actually just took a peek at our points trending history, and every single one of the updates, we got one of the higher initiative ones going down. The trend is the points going down because people aren't flying them. So when comparing it to the V-Wing, I think the Torrent is a little bit better, and because it is costed cheaper than a Y-Wing as well, if you're looking for some type of generic filler, I'm going to go ahead and grab it and place it in the B tier. The barrel roll plus evade makes it so that you can fit a lot of defensive ships in there, and I think just kind of looking at what we have right now, we end up at the B tier. So, to kind of give a recap of just the ship rankings, we have CLT Jedi at the S tier, 7B Jedi Aether Sprites in the A tier, ARC 170s in the A tier, as well as the LAT in the A tier. In the B tier, we have potentially the Besh V-Wings, the Eta 2s, the Naboo Starfighter, and the Torrent. And then in the C tier, we have the V-Wing in general, Naked V-Wing, the Esk V-Wing as well, and the Y-Wing. So those are our ship rankings. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take each of these ships and take a look at the individual pilots. And the hope is that when we're done through all of this, when we actually kind of take an average of what we think the pilots end up ranking, does it end up matching what we say for the pilots? So we'll end up seeing. So those of you who are listening and watching at home, go ahead and and keep track to see how we do here. So let's go ahead and let's get these cleared out of here, and we'll go ahead and grab our first ship here. Ryan, you had started by talking about the LAT, right? Was that where you started?
Correct.
So let's go ahead and we'll start with those LAT pilots as we go ahead and clear these ships off the board. And I will go ahead and spread these out. So the LAT, we got 4 pilots for the LAT.
Yep. Got 4 pilots. All right, so let's just get the easy one out of the way. The generic is still A tier. Still worth taking. I believe, let me look at the cost real quick. It should be at least 1 point cheaper than Hound. It is at 49 points. There's always going to be value in taking a support ship in its cheapest option, especially at the 2 initiative. Let's do Hawk next, because this is the one I like the least, but will say I have seen or have bothered to see use the least amount. So Hawk is going to be B tier. I just don't see much value in his ability. It's, start to engage end phase. Each friendly ship at range 0 to 1 that has revealed maneuver of speed 3 to 5 may gain a strain to perform a barrel or boost. So you're telling a slow-ish, moderately not as great maneuverable, medium-based ship to stay somewhat near, or tell a small ship that is faster to get closer to the medium base at range 0 to 1, which theoretically would make it easier for your opponent to focus on a same area of the board to target you, to just say, hey, at the end phase you get to do a booster barrel action if you're not stressed or restricted by where you are on the board, to be able to do booster barrels and take a strain token, which may limit your decision-making on your maneuvers next turn. I4 neat, but not necessary for this type of chassis. Hound, only one more point, then the generic is going to stay A tier. Its ship ability does have actual good uses. If you look at patience, if a friendly small ship in your turret arc gains a deplete or strain token, so it could be that deplete. Hound could take that deplete and let your ship with patience keep its full attack dice while regaining force. You can also go through gas clouds, and Hound could decide to take that strain, and they won't. And then we get to Warthog, who is the same cost as Hawk, which is one of the reasons why Hawk is B tier for me. I'm trying to think whether or not Hawk should be S tier or A tier. Its ability is pretty powerful and has really good uses, but I think the lists you can make with Warthog right now that we've seen haven't shown a high tier of success yet. Most of it's been going cheaper with the LAT, with Hound or the generic, and finding more space for either your other ships you want on the board or upgrades you find maybe more valuable because you're supporting named pilots and not generic pilots. And that's where we're going to see, I think, in these ship rankings is most pilots in Republic are a higher tier with named pilots than generic pilots. So if you're supporting generic ships with Warthog, it ends up becoming probably easily the most expensive ship. So you have to make sure that the ships that he is helping keep alive till the end phase are threatening enough so that when Warthog's gone, they don't just lose all efficiency or whatever. Don't build a Rube Goldberg machine that's fully based on Warthog. Just bring Warthog, maybe a 7th Fleet gunner, and then go from there. Wolfpack's also pretty a good option, but I think A tier for now. So 3 in A tier and then Hawk in B tier. I think Hawk is too expensive for what he does. I think Warthog does deserve to be the most expensive. I don't know if he deserves to be 4 points more than Hound. Hawk probably could be 51 or 52. He's at 54. Warthog could go down a little bit. We'll see. Granted, I think if Warthog was 1 less point, you could have Warthog in the 3-7B Jedi Knights that I talked about, so making those live to the end phase might be a little bit scary. They're already scary as it is, as Marcel has tried out that list recently, it seems.
All right, so let's go ahead and we're just going to stack these up just to make a little bit room for some of the incoming stuff. And let's keep rocking here. Will, let's revisit those Aether sprites. We'll go ahead and these, by the way, anybody who's watching right now, the order that we have them in our screen here is in the order of cost. So least expensive to most expensive. Take it.
All right. I will say, as a note, you're focused on Hawk's support ability. I mean, he could just be boosting by himself. That does still say range 0. Just saying. Barrel rolling lat. Boosting lat.
Doesn't it say small base?
I doesn't say anything.
Oh, each friendly ship. Okay. A little more squirrely.
Just saying. You can find some uses for it. But I digress. Into the Aether sprites. Let's start by some easy ones here. Let's put the Jedi Knight in A. As we talked about in the chassis, it's just really has plenty of abilities. Force and the fine-tuned controls plus calibrated normally. You're gonna like it. It really doesn't need a pilot ability to shine, and for the points, I think it's on par with the rest of the chassis. Ferris Ulfi, while a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 performs the bullseye, so she can essentially spend her force to modify other people's bullseye things. Not great. I'm putting her in C. One force, situational ability. A little bit of a bump because of patience exists now, so she can still use her fine-tune controls and then her ability, I guess. But not excited to bring her. Sorry, Tommy. We got Luminara up next. I'm also going to put I'm ranking these. Sorry, no, I'm not softballing any of these guys. Luminara in the C tier. We've seen it do well, but unfortunately, you're only getting that ability off maybe once per round, and if you are using the ability, they're not utilizing fine-tuned controls through the Force. I think it has definitely potential. It would ranking if I could put it with Padme, your ranking would go way up. But a singular chassis ability, no, thank you. Next we got CC Teen. I'm also putting down here. We just move all these up for now. They're about to be up over there anyways. Keep losing them here from some tilt. You just gotta hold them up and lock them while they're in the midair. Anyway, CC Teen. That is the one that lets you change your dial. Now, I'm normally have strong opinions on dial changing abilities, especially when it's not tied to a specific initiative. You can change Anakin's dial, but we really haven't seen much use out of it. My only explanation with CC10 is that most of the time that defensive modifier of the Force is probably better than a support ship. Definitely if you have like multiple Jedi, like 3 or 4 in a list, she could find use. But as every day, every other day, she's down in C tier. Because I mean, I would put her in the dumpster, but I respect the dial changing enough to know. Let's go. I'm just going to keep going in order here. Ahsoka Tano. I'm going to get flack for this one. I'm going to put it in S tier. One of the best abilities on one of the best chassis. Should I continue on? Her ability works while she's stressed. It's crazy. Flokun, I guess I have to put it into B tier. I'm going to B tier. I5 double reposition on a chassis that gets free mods. I mean, he also has an ability that's support based, but pretty much that alone gets him into B tier. Mace Windu, I'm also putting into B tier. Not as great initiative, but has a lot of force, a lot of extra force with his ability. Can still double reposition. I think he doesn't lose anything, obviously, but a little bit more expensive. You're paying his points for that third force, which is good. Can't deny that. But I think that the other pilots that I'm about to get to make more use out of that 3 force. And that's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Definitely goes into S tier. We've seen huge success with him all throughout second edition. His ability to not only provide himself with a second or third force or focus token by spending force, you can also do it for friendlies up to range 2. Wow. Support ace. It's exactly where that ship needs to be, which is S tier. Then we got Anakin Skywalker. Oof, and this is actually the one where I really got to think about because I don't think he's S tier anymore. The recent points changes and what his limitations with CLT, and especially since essentially I would say that his Ada version with the tools it can bring is better than his Aether Sprite version, which we're really just seeing that he can double reposition. Doesn't really matter what chassis you bring, but I mean the fact that he was running around in shoe ship builds with Anakin and Obi-Wan only, I had to still give him A. Well, let me give you that rundown for our audio listeners because I have 9 pilots, so I did want to pick up the pace here. So in S tier, I have Ahsoka Tano, Snips, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. For A tier, I have the generic Jedi Knight and Anakin Skywalker. In B tier, we got Plo Koon and Mace Windu. And in C tier, we got Barasophie, Luminara, and CC Team. Any hot
Yes.
arguments? Which one?
Luminara doesn't.
Luminara B, at least.
Yeah,
Only
Luminara.
Padme, though.
No,
No.
Luminara with anything, with an arc, with anybody that's getting shot, Luminara can help. And if you're just spending, you're either making somebody else spend a token to get the damage that they were gonna get, or you're mitigating damage for the ship that needs it, whether it's itself or somebody else.
I'm also surprised you put Plo Koon in B tier. I figure Plo Koon, I5, double reposition with 2 force. I mean, that screams A tier, especially at the cost, right? We've seen him be effective.
Yeah, I would do the same. I would put Luminara and Plo 1 up, and Sensor Jammer. That's basically X-Wing 1.0 Sensor Jammer there, and I've got really bad Cobra Kai flashbacks from Sensor Jammer Worlds 2016. Yeah, I would.
All right, I will give you Plo Koon back up into A tier. He has had success, and he is pretty affordable, though not really. If you look at what's the difference between Plo Koon and Obi-Wan right now?
1 force.
4? Well, okay. I'll give you that.
And a better ability. Obi-Wan's ability is also better.
Yeah, so we're looking at
a 4-point difference.
Points. Yeah, man, so
you always take Obi over Plo, but that's why Obi's S tier and Plo's A tier, because you take Plo next if you're doing the aces.
Now, I'm going to be strong. I'm going to put him in the B tier only because he's essentially second Obi-Wan. You would always bring Obi-Wan first.
Obi is S, right?
I mean,
if Obi was A, then yes, but Obi's S.
All right, I'll make it. All right, we'll put Plo Koon in A. I can't deny I5 double reposition, but Luminara is staying in C. All right.
I'm going to throw one interesting point out. This is reminded by the chat. Not that you have to move her, but Barriss Offee is only 1 more point than the Jedi Knight, and the Jedi Knight's in A tier. Now, granted, 1 more point gets you 1 more initiative and an ability that's not really used that often. Granted, that 1 increased initiative does increase the cost by CLT and 7B equipped to her by a minor, let's see, if you technically...
2.
CLT's 2 points on a Jedi Knight, and it's 3 points on Barriss. If you put 7B on her, it's 16, whereas it's 12 on a Knight. I don't think you really ever see 7B on Barriss, but only a 3-point difference between
2 points.
a 2-point difference between CLT Jedi Knight and CLT Barriss to get 1 more initiative.
But I think if you are looking for budget Jedi, those minuscule points end up making a big difference with what you can bring with it.
Sure.
But
it's very rare that you see it matter to go from 3 to 4.
I mean, it's really. I think I agree with Dion here. Is that if you have if you have 4 Jedi Knights, I'm not going to put Barriss as the 5th one though, because I don't want an I4 flying around with my I3s. I'm ranking her more on her ability because it's conflicted. That you essentially are paying more points just for that 1 more initiative. Like I see what you're saying points wise, but it's just harder to try to use her ability and to find 2 controls and be defensive at the same time. Like I don't know. I would rather spam Jedi Knights than trying to deal with Barriss.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Like I said, not a hard argument, just an interesting point that like Barriss isn't that far off from the Knight points wise.
No, and maybe that might be a credit to the Knights. Probably should go down a tier, but
I will say though, out of all the ships, this is the hardest one, which is why we're spending the most amount of time on it, because there is so many pilots and a lot of diversity within those pilots. So it is definitely the one where we're gonna have the most amount of arguments, which is that's the fun in it.
I think that with so much choice and options for the Aether Sprite, it really does come down to your team. Are you all 3s? Are you just all Jedi with having bullseye abilities? Like if everyone has a bullseye ability, maybe Barris is the right call. So it really, there's a reason why it's an A-tier chassis, man. There's just a lot of things you can do with it. It fills a lot of roles.
All right, Marcel, we're going to go ahead and hit these Naboos.
Sure, this is where we go S across the board. Is that what I heard? All right, so let's see. Let's start off with the Naboo handmaiden who comes in Initiative 1 and basically just support to other ships that are better. I am actually going to throw that one in the trash. Go there. Is that our first trash of the day?
That's our first dumpster pilot.
Yeah, that's a dump. Basically, the points is what makes a dumpster. So that'll be a dumpster one. Next, we go with Danae Elberger. Ellerby sounds better. Danae Ellerby.
You should probably say the right pilots, though, so that people know what you're talking about.
Oh, my God. Danae Elberger.
Okay.
Let's just say Danielle. Okay, whatever. I call it what I call it. So the Initiative 3, Danae, will be... I actually like the ability. I'm going to say B. It's not the worst. The Bravos... I am actually going to go with... The Bravo, I'm going to put it in B as well. Definitely not an A. Not a C. I think the points keeps it at a B for me. Rick is an A, not an S. Really good ability. Good initiative, good ability. Well, good points. Let's see. Padme. I really want to put her in B, but I'm actually going to put Padme down in C just because of the points. If she was a little bit cheaper, I would probably put her a little higher. But at Initiative 4, her ability only works if she's got you an arc.
I have to say for our audio viewers, there's a lot of confused faces going on. No, we're gonna let you finish.
For our
but
audio
I think this ship is much worse than you're saying. But you can finish.
Describing reactions on screen from the other people who have webcams right now, which me and Joan have been giving each other weird looks about some of your decision making. We'll get to that.
Oh wait, what? Maybe. I don't pay attention to y'all. I fly my ships the way I want to fly my ships, and I say which ones are good based on my thoughts. They ain't telling me what to do. Free thinkers over here. Okay. So anyway, I'm not a big fan of Padme. I never fly her. So yeah, it's in my arc. Not a big fan of it. Bravo is a B. Danae is a B. Padme a C. The Naboo is garbage. The Handmaiden. Rick is an A, and actually I'm gonna put Baby Anakin as an S tier because I think Baby Anakin fits a lot of different roles. With the Force, basically gets a Force and an evade every turn plus an action, whether it's a target lock, passive sensors, or an additional Force or repositioning. So I'm gonna throw Anakin over here. And what are you guys talking about behind my back?
Okay. So here's my thing, and I saw Ryan had the exact same thought I had because I saw him searching through the piles of what are the other things in A, what are the other things in B, and like I can't say that the Bravo officer or Danae Elberger is in
I'm
that
actually
same...
not as bad on the Bravo just because the recent torpedo reduction.
That's true.
I have a proposition for you, Marcel, this time.
Okay.
I think you should swap Danae and Padme. I know you don't play Padme much, but the trigger, if you're basing it off their abilities, the trigger on Danae's ability is so niche comparison to Padme just says in arc. That's a big area. Just be in my arc, and you have to deal with if you turn one focus over. You can only modify one focus, which is, I think, statistically almost as bad as you just straight can't modify. But you can't modify only against Danae. Whereas Padme says, if you're in my one arc, range 0 to 3 or 1 to 3. I don't know if it's 0, that's even better.
I'll tell you why not.
In arc, all of their modifications against anybody are affected negatively by Padme.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why I don't. I don't agree with that. So the main reason why I don't agree with that is Padme at 44 points comes in only 1 point behind Rick. And what I like about these two that I think puts them at B, which again, we're talking about B, we're not talking about something more than B. What I think puts these two at B is where they're costed. Not because I think their abilities are better, but a 33 point or a 32 point ship is really good. It's really good value for the generic 33, a 33 point Bravo fighter, and then 38 points for the Elberger is I'll go with 6 points less here. Because again, if we're going with like passive ion torpedoes, Padme with nothing on it is the same points as Danae with some type of toys to it. 6 points worth of toys, whether it's passive plus something else. And at Initiative 3, the passives come in cheaper than they do for some of the higher initiative ones because the passive sensors are now initiative based. Their points are. So I like it because of the points. I think Padme's ability is better. The way that I would build out, I would use the Danae mostly because of it comes in at 38 points versus 44 for Padme. So that's my reasoning behind it. I'm not going to change it, but that's my reasoning.
Okay. Well, if you're locked in there, then that's what it is. I would also agree with a swap there, but
that's fine. Final answer.
What final answer? We'll keep on keeping on. So go ahead, give us the rundown before we move on.
All right. So we've got the Handmaiden in the garbage. Then we go into C. I got Padme at C. At B tier, I have the generic Bravo flight officer and Danae Elberger. At rank A, I have Rick Oli, and S tier Anakin. Is anybody going to fight me on Anakin S tier?
I think that's less of a fight I want to make than the other fight we tried to make.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
We were only going to potentially get one fight.
Yeah,
to actually have a chance.
Well, I already conceded one today, so.
I'll give you that.
I mean, you conceded. You conceded to. Hold on. I got. You conceded nothing because you literally said You made this B tier. Look, if you average this out, S, A, 2 Bs, a C, and a dumpster, the average is B. You've agreed with yourself. There was never an argument. I'm just saying. So ship chassis B confirmed.
This is the first ship chassis with a dumpster too.
That's right. All right, let's go. Let's keep going on here. So next I had the V-Wing. Let's go ahead and grab these pilots. There are a total of 6 pilots in the V-Wing. Let's go ahead and take a peek at these. So I'm actually going to go ahead and start. I'm going to go backwards here. I know that we have them here in cost order, but I want to start with the most expensive V-Wing of them all. So we got Tarkin here. Tarkin at a total of 34 points, the most expensive one out there. No, that's not right. Did my list get messed up here? Is Tarkin 34? It is 34. Got it.
You're right.
Yeah, he is the most expensive.
All right, I think I have something else wrong in my sheet. Not a big deal. So Tarkin here, during the system phase, you may choose an object that you have locked at range 1 to 3. Another friendly ship at range 1 to 3 may acquire a lock on that object. So, fun, but why Wilf Tarkin when you can Thread Tracer is essentially threat tracers made Tarkin just useless. His ability is 100% useless. Then ship was like, well, what if you don't have a missile slot? I was like, well, then don't take a V-wing. Is my answer. Okay, don't take a V-wing. There has to be a really niche reason why you would want Tarkin, and for that, I'm actually going to take Tarkin and put him in the D tier, all the way down. He is unplayable. There is no reason to play that ship. Hot takes here. All right, this Monday night. Next, we're going to go ahead and take Contrail. Contrail, while you defend or perform an attack, if the bearing of your revealed maneuver is the same as the enemy ships, you may change one of your enemy's focus results to a blank result. So, I think this is an interesting ability. Initiative 5 is more of the interesting for me, but the problem is, like... There are other Initiative 5s that I think might be better. Now, I will say that I think the Initiative 5s on the V-Wing are a better buy than the Torrents. I think the abilities are better overall. When I go ahead and compare some of the costs, it's if you really want an I-5 not as expensive as a Jedi small base ship, I would go with a V-Wing. Contrail, I'll go ahead and just slap it in B. It's kind of average. I'm tempted to drop it down to C, but for right now, we'll put it in B. I might end up changing my mind. I'm going to go now to Oddball. Oddball, just his ability conflicts with the chassis. So again, boost into lock. When his ability says when you perform a red action and you have somebody in the bullseye, you can get a lock. The question is, why would you? Like, if you're going to be using the maneuverability of the V-Wing, it just doesn't make sense. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to grab Oddball, and Oddball also goes to the D tier. Next, we go to Click, in my opinion, the best V-Wing out of all of them. While a ship that you have locked at range 1 to 3 defends or performs an attack, you may spend 1 charge to prevent the range bonuses from being applied. So that means, we've decided as a community that this means anytime that it's whether that enemy ship is performing a range 1 attack against one of your buddies, against you, like it really can be a huge difference. So I'm gonna grab the V-Wing Click and place him in the A tier. I think he has a lot of utility. The cost is okay. I think the cost is okay. I think the initiative is what hurts it more because some of the other A and S tier ships are not initiative 4. Not necessarily that 4 is bad, but they're not initiative 4. So some of the movement stuff can be a little bit weird, but I think you can fit it in some type of Republic salad. We get to the generics, and the initiative 3 is not great. I mean, if you're going to take a lower initiative 1, you're probably just going to go ahead and grab the initiative 2. I'm just going to take both of those generics and drop them down to C, just because I think they're a little more useful than Oddball and Tarkin for what you pay for them. So I end up, final rankings here, no V-Wings are S, Click at the A tier, Contrail at B, both generics, that's the Loyalist Volunteer and the Shadow Escort, at C tier, and both Oddball and Tarkin in the D tier. Any big arguments there? I know nobody has a huge love for the V-Wing, so I don't really expect it.
Yeah, the only thing that I would note is just that the Shadows. I think you mentioned earlier that the lowest generic likes the ESC, if you have a crit, you can inflict its damage. That's pretty much the only role I think that the Shadow Squadrons have is a marksmanship-esque, because at least then you know that a ship's in bullseye before you shoot, so you can trigger esque better. I don't think they really have any other use though.
I will say, I think the i3s are probably one of the potentially better dedicated platforms, especially in hyperspace, where the Torrents can only be taken as named ships. So your cheap generic to carry dedicated is down to your V-Wing, which taking one strain to lose an agility for one attack when you basically turn into a Z95 for one shot, which can be okay to deal with when you are very fast and can just leave next turn to get out of like a killing blow after taking some potential damage from that dedicated strain.
All right. Now, Ryan, we are back to you. Arc 170.
Yeah. Let's get those arcs out. What is it, 6 total? Yeah. Yeah, 6. All right. Let's take care of, I think, probably
Business.
easiest. What?
Business to defeat.
Taking care
Never
of
mind.
business. Put in
Yeah.
Wolf in A tier. That. This not much of a spoiler, but I don't think any of these are S tier. But I think we're going to see. I think I'm going to have a mostly consistent is going to be between A and B. Wolf is one of the better buys, I think, in the faction actually. Is he 50 or 51 now? I don't remember if he went up a little bit. Arc 170, Wolf. I went down 49. Aha, he is now 1 point cheaper than he used to be. So for 1/4 of your list, you have an I4 ship that has a reroll on its forward shot, and it has an extra die out of its back shot, which makes it one of the most self-sufficient Arc 170s and self-sufficient workhorse I4 ships in the faction, maybe in the game. So A tier for me. I think it has one of the coolest design things, which is the flipping of the charge. And then doing the ability flips it back to the other side. It's really neat. Sinker. Force multiplier, always powerful. But you're also now in the faction with the Lats. So your reasonability for being around has just dipped a bit. Like Sinker first came out, Republic first came out, that was one of the main archetypes. But now as points have adjusted and things have come out and things have changed, it's definitely seen a downturn in usage. I'm not going to say I don't think it's C tier though, because a force multiplier can always be powerful, and as things come out or as things adjust again, there's always a relevancy to force multiplier, especially an offensive reroll. So I think Sinker goes in B tier. The generics, I think definitely the I2 goes in A. We talked about it being the workhorse generic chassis of the Republic faction. It is the base T-70 X-Wing of the faction, but obviously you can't fit 5 of them, but probably because, I don't know, would that be too powerful? I don't know, but at least now FFG thinks so. We'll see if AMG thinks otherwise. But I think it has the viability to fit 2 in some stuff or 3 in some stuff. It's versatile across how you want to build. It doesn't always need to be spammed. It can be a single filler, because not only is it a workhorse for its offensive firepower and its average of staying around on the board for a certain amount of turns, but because it's a medium base, if you know how to fly medium base well without relying on boost from, if you've had time with fire sprays, which is probably the most common medium base people fly these days, if you can fly a ship without boost in a medium base, you can effectively move it around the board and be a disruptor of space, whether you have one or multiple of them. And I think I'm actually going to put the generic I3 also in A tier, because that is a dedicated platform that I've seen to good effect, not only with some people I've seen play locally, but also I believe there's been a few good showings of them online, taking 1 or 2 of these with dedicated, saying, I'm just here for a lot of health. If you shoot at me, cool, you're not shooting at my aces that I'm protecting with dedicated anyway. So they're the most guaranteed amount of health. That 1 agility is not really meant there to actually force them to survive that much longer than their total health. So them with dedicated for only 1 more point as an upgrade on them adds that extra value of helping out your entire list. Now we get down to the meh Both these pilots, I think, potentially have too high a cost to them. Jag's weird. I always thought Jag had an opportunity to work well with other pilots, but everyone just shoots Jag then, and Jag's expensive enough for you to care about them shooting at Jag. So I think for now, until Jag maybe sees a small decrease, Jag will actually exist in C tier. Oddball, some people's favorite. I've not yet seen the Kit Fisto crew combination in action. Probably more of a fun time than a real time. So I think Oddball is going to deserve another subpar showing in the C tier. Even though it's I5, you don't need I5 when, let's see, Oddball is 1 point less than Wolf. I'll find the 1 point somewhere.
Oh, yeah. So give us that rundown.
So our final rundown is in A tier. We have Wolf, the 104th Battalion pilot, the Squad 7 veteran. And then in the B tier, we have Sinker. And in the C tier, we have Jag and Oddball.
All right. Next, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Eta 2s. I keep wanting to say ETA. You heard my hesitation there, right? Think about it.
All right, hold on. I got these cards. I got it. Let's see what we got here. Maybe I don't got it. There's the last one. There's the Anakin. Let's put them in order cost here. All right, so the chassis itself, I had gone with B, so it's kind of our baseline ranking here. And that's pretty much where the Jedi General is going to end up. Has options, and certainly like upgrade slots to increase its potency. But it's pretty much just getting B tier because it's got 2 force and 3 agility, which nothing bad about that. And it can shoot a 4-dice gun. I always had to add that caveat that they do have the 3-dice bullseye and 2-dice front arc, which I think is a very interesting mechanic for ships. Man, this might be what, Ayla's more expensive than Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ayla's getting C tier then, for sure. Get out of here, Ayla. We thought she would be, well, no, not D tier. Where would she go? D tier. We actually originally thought that she was going to be like the craziest one. But in play, it's actually harder to make good use out of that ability and her I5. Without the double reposition, I5 just really means less and less on this chassis. So she's going to get that. Who I think is a standout, who we were like, yeah, that's going to be good, but didn't anticipate the variety of lists she could go into. And that's Shock T. And I'm going to put her all the way up into S tier. Can go into any list, always makes that list better, can fly by herself. Shock T's ability says at the start of the end phase, which is before force tokens replenish, so you kind of had to have force from the previous round left over. You may spend any number of force tokens to choose that many friendly ships at range 0 to 2. Each chosen ship does not remove 1 focus or evade token. That lets her evade double force. Get out of here, Shock T. Definitely S tier. Now, Yoda, I actually wish Yoda was a lot better. He's got such adorable little picture of his little ship. But unless you're flying like 3 Jedi with him and really trying to do some interesting support Jedi combinations, I really just don't think that he adds much to the chassis. He does add an additional force point, which is nice. But that was actually a tease. I'm actually putting him into C tier. I'm rating these guys hard. The lower initiative, he's very expensive. 7 more points for less initiative and 1 more force point. You're going to need the high initiative to line up these bullseyes on it if you're ever going to put out real damage or you're stuck shooting a cannon. I do have a strong love for Yoda. Patience, jamming beam, really, really the Jedi Grandmaster we've always wanted. So, anyways, let's go on to the last two. The pairing here of which I think is a really cool design space too, of linking two pilots together, as iconic as the brothers, Anakin and Obi-Wan. Here, we were brothers, and I think that Anakin could get up to S, but I think we're just going to put him in A tier for now. There's a lot of bad Anakin flying out there, but when when you do fly well, wow, can he compete? I think one of the few ships that does have an infinite ceiling, even though he doesn't have double reposition. You could just you could really load this guy down. We've seen 70 like 4-point like stealth device, brilliant evasion versions.
Would you call the Astromech that allows you to change the speed of your maneuver as double reposition? Because you can change your maneuver, at least the speed, and then still position once.
I really don't have a good answer for you because I hate that droid. I do not like that droid. I do not know why they printed that droid. But yes, I could see that. Let me double check their dial here because I have thought about running it on them. So you don't get the banks anymore. It's what you normally use that droid to go from from a 2-bank to a 3-bank or a 1-bank on the Aether Sprite. On this one, you really only options are for the hard turns, which I think actually reduces that post maneuver repositions. So I think that it's not a replacement for a reposition, though it can do work. You just have less options on this chassis versus other ones, though. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? No.
It's a podcast, Marcel. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I'm looking at way too many things. Anyways, okay. So let's go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this one, I really don't know if I can recommend Obi-Wan. I really thought that like the I-5, since obviously the higher initiative is going to be good, so I really can't put it lower than B.
I think and Ryan's eyes were competing to see who's get whiter.
Oh, I actually now I've been talking about, I'm actually going to bring Ayla up. Yoda's going to be my C tier pilot only, because the I-5 is required to line up those bullseyes most of the time. I just really am not singing praises about their abilities.
You must be at least this tall to ride the ride. Is it?
I mean, like Obi-Wan's like nice because like essentially he does what I think the best Force abilities do, which is just convert your Force token into a focus.
Not only yours,
well, also Anakin's, but you have to be in range for Anakin, and you have to be a very specific position where you look. Actually, it's not that hard, but
that's why I'm so questioning why you're concerned about the ability, because it's an I-5. It's got 3 Force. It can do a wide evade when you need to. That ability is ridiculously easy to trigger. You just need more enemy ships at range 0 to 1 of you that just have an enemy ship more than a friendly ship.
I always thought it was front arc.
No, it's just proximity.
Oh no, then it's even worse. Then,
and you don't count yourself. So it's just if it's just yourself and one other ship, because it says other friendly ships. So you don't count yourself.
It doesn't count yourself.
I guess how the ability
and
works.
It's not a focus action. You gain a focus. So you could be stressed. You could be something that doesn't like to have action. You could have already been coordinated a focus for some reason by another one. I don't know why, unless you're in a really bad situation. It's so easy to trigger, and if you're going to get blocked, Okay, I lose a shot on me and I gain a focus for a force. I'll take it.
And baby Anakin loves it. Most important reason.
I guess, but this is one of the few situations where I don't want to spend that amount of points. Um I don't know. I hear what you guys are saying, and you know what? I guess I'll do one better. You're right. Obi-Wan is better than Ayla. Ayla's going back to sea. I agree. I agree completely.
I'm
That's
sorry.
not what I meant. I was going to make the argument that Ayla should be at B and Obi-Wan should be at A. What are you doing?
How do you get your I5 as a
No,
B?
I don't know. I just
Ayla
I-
is a C, and
Ayla's
you got
ability works for
an I4 is
everybody
a B?
when it triggers for her, and it's forceless. She doesn't even have to spend the force on her ability.
I guess you're really twisting my arm here on these Ados. I do. I think Shakti and Anakin are leagues beyond Obi-Wan and Ayla, but I guess this is where you really think that Anakin and Obi-Wan are in the same tier.
Yes, because when you normally the Anakins we see that are effective have a base cost Anakin 7 more points than Obi-Wan, which sure gets you I6. So, but you're also probably spending more points on a bid alone. Then you're also spending points to do all these tricks that we've seen people do Anakin for. So by the time Anakin's effectiveness is considered worth it, he's almost 10 to 15 points more than Obi. I'm completely fine taking Obi with just Predator, and that's it. Calling it 51.
All right. So that was going to be my follow-up question. It's like, what upgrades are you really putting on Obi-Wan?
Just Predator. I'm good.
I like Sense Predator.
Or if I have Lat, maybe I don't take Predator. I just take Patience. Because there's my rerolls anyway.
If you got Hound, yeah. Especially.
All right. Well, I will take your opinions and apply them to my rankings as appropriate. I still don't think much of Ayla. I don't know what squad she really fits into. So we're just going to lock him in like this. We're going to give Shakti, I think, far beyond every other ship here in her usefulness. So she gets the S tier. Obi-Wan and Anakin in the A tier. Ayla Secura and the generic Jedi General in B. And unfortunately, Grandmaster Yoda in the C tier.
So I wanted to take a second. I just remembered right now. Part of the conversation I wanted to have about the Eta 2s is I like where we ended up rankings-wise is I see a lot of people complain about the fact that it has really low health, and I 100% understand that. I guess my question that I want to toss into the universe, those of you in chat, and of course you three gentlemen here, do you think so? I feel like people want to fly the Eta 2s as aggressively as they fly the Aether Sprites, and that is why so many people are seeing these ships die as quickly as they are. I think the evade action seems to be underutilized by a lot of people. A lot of people are trying to go full offense with this. Like, all right, this is, and it's just, I'm seeing these ships die too quickly and too often. And I think that is the trap that a lot of people end up falling into. Thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree. That's why I'm in the same school of thought that you throw Predator on there and just evade and let your focuses and your evades do the work for you. If you have a bad shot, you have a bad shot. Oh well, you're gonna stay alive to shoot again. So get the Predator in when you get the bullseyes, especially in the I5s and the I6. Take the evade action more often than you take the focus. Most people, when you fly the CLTs, everybody always wants to take the focus because you get the free focus result on the bullseye and whatnot. But I happen to think that the Ata that they have pretty decent abilities for the most part. They Shakti's got an amazing one. Obi's got a really good one. Isla actually doesn't have a terrible one. It's actually pretty good because, to Ryan's point, you don't spend the force to do that. You just throw her in there, and everybody benefits from her ability. So,
Dion, to your point, Marcel and Dion, I think that that style of like ace play is either you dive in to shoot, right? You dive in for your shot and hope, hope and clinch. And these just don't have those tools. You can't just barrel roll out of a bunch of arcs all the time. And it's hard to stay in the fight by just taking evades, and that balance is really the hardest thing to get the Adas to work.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one more thing that probably gets less love than it should. One of the best things I like about flying AP5 with Luke and Wedge is the ability to get a reposition from, a coordinated boost or a coordinated barrel roll at initiative 1 or less, because that gives you. Everybody thinks about it like, okay, you're flying initiative 5, initiative 6. I want to double reposition to line up a shot. But the ability to take your high initiative ships and just completely mess up the movements of a swarm ahead of you and just get in their way and mess up all their actions and mess up everything they want to do at ships that are below you. So you become a blocker. You can become a blocker at low initiative, especially if you've got sense on them. I know it takes an extra force, but there's ways around it. So I think I agree with Dion that I think it's just, and I think you said it too, that there's just a lot of bad Anakin play. I think that people haven't learned how to fly them yet, and they haven't learned to take evades instead of focuses every time. And just
evade should be your action. If your barrel roll doesn't dodge 2 arcs, you better be just evading.
Yeah.
It's definitely a ship chassis that it has a low floor. It's not something that's forgiving. It's going to be something like on a dice mitigation basis in terms of having mods. It's really good at that. The problem is you need to still have precise positioning, not only where you are, but when you're there. So it's a timing thing as well to make sure that, like, does being on this flank matter at this point in the game, or does being on this flank mean I commit too hard at this point in time in the game? Like, it's a tough balance, and there's going to only be certain players that can be able to maximize it. The difficulty is not acquiring mods. They have mods for days, mainly defensively, as we see. So mitigating the low amount of health is something they can do. The issue is, amongst other ships that can mitigate their defense almost as much, looking at Inquisitors, looking at Soontir Fel, looking at other Aether Sprites, they have either a combination of, at least with the Aether Sprites and Soontir Fel, double reposition if they really need to get out of a sticky situation, or with the Inquisitors, they also have the evade, but they're also cheaper on average by comparison to the ETAs.
All right. So yeah, very high ceiling ships, low floor, real low floor. All right, Marcel, you got the Y-wings, some chunk.
Right, I'm going to try to get you to bed on time. Well, these are easy ones, I think. We should be able to knock these out pretty quick.
Well, so the thing is, and you know what? Props to Will for having the beard to take both of the Jedi ships, because they're the most highly contested out of they're the flavor of the faction, and there's a lot there. So
They're the Jedi.
He's a champ for taking them both.
All right. So where's the other Anakins? We have an Anakin in S. We have an Anakin in A. And where's the other Anakin?
I think there's 2 in A.
There's 2 in A. Oh, so you throw the other one in A. So I'm gonna take this Anakin and throw him down to C. So let's just start there. Way too expensive for what he gets. So he's not worth the. Yeah, I see him right there. Anyway, so we're gonna start off with Anakin Skywalker on the Y-wing. And basically, it's just way too expensive for what you're gonna spend on. You're gonna be spending 50 something points for an Initiative 6 Y-wing that you'll really only get benefit if you throw some type of ordnance on it, like a torpedo, and at that point you're close to 70 points. Give me Obi-Wan with Delta 7 instead. Just not very good. Then we're gonna start off there. Let's go up here. The Red Squadron Bomber, which is their generic. I'm actually just gonna put him in B. I'm not a big fan of these ships, so they're all probably gonna be lower in the bottom. So I think they're costed pretty well. If I'm not mistaken, they're like 29 or something like that, I believe. Yeah, 29. So 29. You really shouldn't put any kind of dorsal turret on it. With ion turret, they're 34 points, so 34 points for a Y-wing, and then you can throw a bomb on there. I can maybe see, like, if you're spamming this with bombs, 5 of these with bombs and ions, that actually makes me want to move it up to A, just because you can fit 5 of them with bombs and stuff. But I have an anti-Y-wing bias, so I'm going to keep it in B. But I can see a case for them being in A. I can see that case. I will throw, not that I2, the other I2. Where'd it go? Goji. I am going to put Goji in A, because Goji takes that basically the exact same points, the exact same everything else, but it adds an additional ability, especially if you add a delayed fuse on your bombs, to give friendly ships the ability to basically get an extra die. And I think it's actually more useful than people do it. I don't think people use it as a defensive tool. They usually keep the Y-wing in the back, and they use the bomb as a deterrent. I think that, especially if you're flying this with like a what do you call it, a lat or something like that, and the lat's following it, you can actually get the 2 agility out of the lat more often than you would think. So I'm going to throw that in the A. All right, let's see what else we got. Shadow Squadron Veteran. I don't think it's worth spending. Oh God, just because I like it up here, but I'm going to keep it in the C tier only because if you're going to spend points on this thing, you might as well spend them on the I2. There's no reason to get 1 initiative higher. Let's see. We are going with Oddball. How many points is Oddball? That's going to change. So Oddball is 40. Okay, that's it. 40 points. Bye-bye. There we go. So Oddball down there with 40 points. And you know what? We've got Matchstick. So Matchstick, I think, is also expensive, if I'm not mistaken. He's 42 points. So his, the reroll when it's red.
Here's what you need to know there. He's more expensive than Broadside.
Who?
Matchstick. Matchstick is more expensive than Broadside.
Oh yeah, and you have to have a red token on you, like. I guess
it can be your own friendly target lock.
Yeah, which can be a target lock. I get it, but at 42 points, it's still super pricey because by the time you put an ion cannon, which is the one, if you're getting the rerolls, you might as well have the ion cannon. And it's another 5 points. That's 47. You probably want the cheapest bomb. That's 50 points. 50 points for a Y-wing. It's way too expensive. I can't justify it. I'll throw that down there as well. The Broadside, I actually like Broadside. I'm actually going to throw Broadside up there. I am a big fan of Broadside. So I think Broadside is actually pretty good for the points that he's at. He comes in at 36 points. I see, is that Ryan trying to say, or somebody trying to say bring it up to S tier? I don't think so. But I think he's really good. I do think if anybody you get to turn a blank into a focus. That's always good. It's helpful. Yeah, he's not the same as Goji. If Goji, the difference is that there's
no
7 point
comparison between
there's 7
Goji and
point.
Broadside.
No, the no comparison is in the 7 points. I mean, 7 points is not.
You also
nothing.
have to remember what other ships exist in S. If anything, Broadside could be A and Goji down to B.
Yeah, exactly.
agree.
I don't think there
I would-
is an
I would
S tier S tier Y-wing.
Yeah, there's no such thing as an S tier Y-wing right now.
I agree. So I'm gonna throw Goji and keep him with the other one. I mean, he just gets a benefit over this, so he's probably slightly higher. And then R2D2, only because he's not as expensive. I'm gonna keep him in the C tier because he's basically cost the same points as the Shadow Squadron. So anyway, that's what I got. I got Oddball and Matchstick in the dumpster. Anakin Skywalker, the Initiative 3 generic, and R2D2 in C tier. The generic Initiative 2 plus Goji at B, and Broadside in A.
I would consider swapping R2D2 in the Red Squadron, because essentially R2D2 is the same price as a Shadow, and Goji is the same price as a I2 generic, but they both gain something. R2D2 especially gains the ability for the Republic to bring a cheap crew, cheaper than on the LAT, cheaper than on an ARC. So
Does he have a? Oh, is that what's different about him? That he has
R2D2 has a crew instead of a gunner, because
okay, crew and the gunner.
Yes, crew and gunner, no Astromech because he is the Astromech.
Gotcha. I agree. I'm still going to keep the Initiative 2 at a. I'm not going to bring the Initiative 2 down because I do think it's just a very cheap way to bring an ion and to spam ions and bombs. But I'll agree with R2D2. I don't think about the crew, but yeah, that makes sense. So I'll throw R2D2 and B as well.
All right. And then at A tier, you had Broadside.
Yep.
Nice. All right. And last but not least, we have the Torrents. Go ahead. We got 7 pilots total for the Torrent. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. Now, out of all of the oddballs that there are, I would say that the Torrent oddball is probably the best one, but it's still not great. It still has that same ability. They tripled, quadrupled down on this ability after you fully execute a red maneuver or perform a red action. If there's an enemy ship in your bullseye, you may acquire a lock on that ship. I think as long as, if you really want to fly an oddball, this is where you do it. But my suggestion is just don't fly an oddball. Rather than making it D tier, I'm going to go ahead and make it a C tier for the honor of the other oddballs.
I just say a 32-point Initiative 5 tracer carrier is not. I mean, you get tracers at Initiative 5.
Not only tracers, but ion missiles only 2 points as well. And if you have the points left over, Mag Pulse missile at I-5 for that cheap seems also pretty solid too.
Cheap. Yeah, super cheap.
I would agree. I would agree. Let's look at the rest of my rankings, and you'll see why he got C. So this is what we're going to go through quickly. I said earlier that that compared to the V-Wing, the Torrent was overall better as a chassis, but that the V-Wing had better named pilots. And because of that, basically these 4, Tucker, Axe, Kickback, and Sloop, they're all kind of, they're in this same place where they're not worth playing unless you really need a specific initiative. So you have 2, 3, and 4 here, a specific initiative with tracers. That's where you can maybe justify bringing it. Now, when we take a look at Tucker, this is where you can maybe have a little bit of wiggle room here. After a friendly ship at range 1 to 2 performs an attack against an enemy ship in your front arc, you may perform a focus action. that probably works the best out of all of them because it is the one, probably the easiest of them all to make an ability that will matter. Because I think the problem with Axe, it doesn't matter as much. A little bit more difficult to get off consistently. Kickback, this performing a barrel roll, you may perform a red target lock action. I mean, it's okay, but there isn't much with the target lock that's. There aren't many things you can do with that target lock that are going to matter in the game, and swoop is cute, being able to get the boost, but again, doesn't necessarily matter. So I would say from these, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab swoop, I'm going to grab axe, and I'm going to grab kickback, and I'm going to put them at a C- tier. Tucker's at the C tier. The blue is interesting because yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to be nice.
Make the harsh call, dumpster.
They're in the dumpster. They're in the dumpster. Tucker, because of his ability, is interesting. The question is, are you willing to pay the additional points where maybe you could put those points somewhere else? Okay, now. He is initiative 2. I'm looking for my points.
He is only 2 points more than the gold.
That's what I was looking for.
Increased a solid amount because I looked at him way back when they first came out, and I was like, "This seems interesting," but he, was way more points. But now he's only 2 more points. He, as mentioned in the chat by Don Fani, he is the Lieutenant Revis of Republic.
Yes. So you have some options there. But the question is, do you have the points? The gold gets that C tier, not in the dumpster, because actually, you know what? I'm gonna take these 2 and put them. Oh, why is it locked down? I'm gonna grab both these 2. We're gonna come back to these 2. The blue is gonna be. The question is for dedicated, right? This is because it came down in price significantly to 26. All right.
Yep. So the cheapest dedicated platform is 27 points with a torrent, basically torrent dedicated in this faction.
We're going to go ahead and drop that in the C tier. So the argument, I guess, you're right. I did forget about the value of I-5 for the Tracer. So these 2 pilots, the Gold Squadron Trooper at Initiative 2 and Oddball at Initiative 5, essentially both of your questions for them end up being the Tracer missile. Can you get the value out of a high initiative Tracer where you can set up other people at Initiative 5 and lower for target lock focus attacks? And then the Gold Squadron Trooper is the cheapest Tracer missile that you can get in the Republic. Those are your 2 questions. And I just kind of I'm just peeking through some of the other things that we have in the B tier. I
see a lot more generic torrents than I see generic Y-wings.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and slap it in the B tier as well for both of those.
Yeah. So, and just to give a little more love to this particular oddball, I mean, not just the Tracers, because the Tracers definitely on the I2, but on oddball specifically, again going back to the ion missiles aren't very expensive. Mm-hmm. And you can very easily barrel roll, link to a red evade, and get either a Tracer shot, because Tracers is with focus, calculate, or target lock. So you can use any of those to fire off a Tracer, or you can just use a target lock to get one of your other missiles off. And for 32 points, being able to get that kind of value where you can just move, take your token, and shoot it, or you can move, reposition, get an evade, get a target lock, shoot a modded Tracer, and then pass off to other people, or even if they don't, your Tracer doesn't have to hit, because 3-die attacks, people will spend their tokens to not get the target locks to hit on them. So it's even it works just like a jam by making people waste their modifiers. It's really good. For the price, it's really, really good. I would even go almost to A if people were more brave to fly them more often. That's how much I think it would be.
All right. Well, final rankings there are going to be Oddball at B, Gold Squadron Trooper at B, Tucker C, Blue Squadron Protector at C, and then Swoop, Kickback, and Axe living in the dumpster. Now, what I want to do here, we do have the upgrades left. We need to fly through these. All right, 20 minutes, lightning upgrades. Here we go. And rather than doing one person per stack, we're gonna swap person by person, and I think that will be the fastest way for us to get it done. Are you guys ready for the lightning round here?
Yeah. Can I throw a caveat in there?
Sure.
Marcel loves his drafts so much. I think that's where the direction we should go. Start at find the SNAs first. What would you draft out of here? And see if we can work our way down.
Okay, eventually, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be saving this instance of what we're doing here, and we're gonna use it. I got plans. My plans got plans.
We might want to stick to certain upgrades and go in order first, because we'll be searching through the decks over and over.
Yeah,
there is 9, 7, and 6 of those. Fair enough.
We're gonna go. We're gonna
Astromech.
We're gonna go with the Astromechs first here. All right, one at a time. Here we go. Ryan, hit it. Starting at the top.
R2A6 S tier.
Will.
Q7 Astromech dumpster.
Marcel.
All right, R2D2. After you activate, you may spend 1 gain, blah, 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 blah. He is awesome because he happens after you activate, so I'm going to put him in S tier.
Okay. Next one. I'm going to go ahead and grab R7A7, the one that allows you to change a hit to a crit. Has a lot of utility in different lists, but not in every list. I'm going to go ahead and put it in A tier.
Chopper. S tier. C1 10P.
I'm going with what's the other big old dumpster one? It's R2C4. He allows you to spend your evade to change one of your eyeball results to a focus result. Pretty niche for the Naboo. Not useful on anybody else.
Okay. Basically, how much is R4P17?
Let me look.
5 points. Should be this
5.
He's a pattern analyzer droid.
Yeah.
5 points, same as pattern analyzer.
Well, I was going to say same as Contraband Cybernetics. I would put Contraband Cybernetics as a 5. This way you get 2 versions of Contraband Cybernetics, so I'll put them as an A.
I'm going to go ahead and grab R4P44. After you fully execute a red maneuver, if there's enemy ships in your bullseye, gain a calculate. Trash. It's terrible.
Who cares?
Don't pay the points for that. Let's see, 44. That's 3 points for that. No, thank you.
R4P A tier. I think people who are equipping R4 Astromech should be equipping R4P. Same cost, and you get more benefit across your entire dial. And you're only going to need it for probably twice a game, so it's realistically how much you might need it.
There you go. So final rankings for droids. We got R2 for Republic droids, R2A6, R2D2, and Chopper at S tier. At the A tier, we have R7A7, R4P17, and R4P. Nothing in B, nothing in C. And we get to the dumpster, R4P44, R2C4, and Q7. Sadness. All right.
It's funny because I think maybe some of those deserve a rank, but we don't care to, so they just go in the dumpster anyway.
Yep. I mean, they're that. That's the thing is they're that.
I see on like a couple builds, but I'm not.
Like Q7, I could think might be a C, but I'm not going to argue for it to be out of the dumpster. Like whatever.
All I know is that when Dion starts talking like an auctioneer, you know it's getting close to bedtime for him.
It's got to go high or low.
What do we got next?
All right, we're going to go ahead and hit those crew cards.
Crew only cards.
Crew only. Hit it.
Ryan, you've gone first every time.
Oh, me. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Ayla Secura, S tier.
Focus and the coordinate. That's it.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I still get my action and I get to coordinate. Neat for me.
I'm taking Kit Fisto, which has the purple reinforce and some repair abilities. We'll put him into C tier.
You mean Plo Koon? You just grabbed Plo Koon.
Oh, what did I say? Kit Fisto?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said Kit.
I was talking about the one with the reinforce.
Got it.
Kit Fisto might be also there if you would prefer, but I think it's going to be hard to put any force using crew in the dumpster.
Agreed. So Plo Koon, C tier.
All right, I'm going to go with Chancellor Palpatine, and I'm going to throw him in the A tier, both because it gives coordinate plus the stress hog effect is really good as well.
All right, next, I'm going to go ahead and grab C-3PO. While you defend, if you are calculating, you may reroll 1 defense die. After you perform a calculate action, you can gain 1 calculate token. I think C-3PO suffers from the fact that there are other good crew, now that we have Jedi crew in there, that he's less, he matters less, unfortunately. So, sorry, hero.
If they had a 2 agility crew carrier, I think his ranking would go up significantly.
100%. I agree with that. But because of that, I'm going to go ahead. I kind of want to put him in the dumpster. Yeah, that's where he belongs. All right, continue.
Don't feel bad for it.
All right. Kit Fisto, join Plo Koon. It's Force crew, neat. Probably fits somewhere, but they're either better Force crew or not enough points in the faction to add him in a lat.
Yeah, I kind of want to just take 5s just because I'm gonna literally say what you said about Yoda. I think 5s is a little more interesting. It says after you perform attack that misses, if you're in the defender's initiative equal to or greater than your own initiative, you can place a focus orbit on this card. And you can stack, before you engage, you can remove a focus token from this card. I think this is pretty good, actually. I think I'm actually going to put it into A. No, I take that back. It's B, because it is only on misses. You have to count on missing. And that
not bad cheap on a lat. Let's put it that way. Lats are going to miss.
No, lats are going to miss. A lot more utility if you're running a ghost crew or company. Lat, who's going to shoot twice, you're much more likely to miss then. What was the other one? Hound. If you're taking depletes with Hound and you're rolling 1 attack dice, man, you better have 5s on board.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is you're only really using half the ability because the evade doesn't really matter. for you don't stack the evade. You stack the focuses most of the time.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Oh god, you gave me the one I hate. It's going to be somewhere between 2 Force, too expensive, 2 Force, too expensive, 2 Force, too expensive, 2 Force, too expensive.
So he's talking about Yoda.
So I'm going to throw Yoda in B. Probably people will disagree because of the 2 Force. I just think that you can get the coordinate from other things that are better. Palpatine is, in my opinion, has more things to do. And Isla is better than Yoda, even if it's only 1 Force, because you get the focus plus through. Anyway.
I mean, a focus token every round beats a second Force charge, right?
Yeah.
And hey, Marcel, canonically, we saw Sidious beat Yoda in battle, so I would agree. This is what happened. It's canonical.
So does that mean Ayla should have been the savior all along?
She should have been. I think this is what we learned. They never gave her a chance. They sent her off to the planet, got shot up by all the clones.
Poisonous Felucia.
Yes. All right, so final rankings there for our Republic crew. Ayla Secura at S tier. Chancellor Palpatine dealing out those stress in the A tier. 5s and Yoda in the B tier. Plo Koon and Kit Fisto in the C tier. And C-3PO in the D tier only because of the appearance of the Jedi crew. It's essentially why that ended up happening there. All right, let's go ahead, stack those up, and let's get to some of our gunners now.
All right. S tier easy first. 7th Fleet gunner with the showing of the lats. That means 7th Fleet just says, "Hey, you want extra dice and reroll 2 of your dice? I got something for you."
Yeet.
I'm putting, man. I I think actually Wolfpack deserves an easy A here. We've seen it work on arcs, certainly on Warthog, zombie squads. So it certainly gets that A ranking.
Marcel? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Trying to figure out which one I want to take. I don't like well, let's take the one I really think is garbage. So let's take Commander Rex and throw Rex in the garbage.
So sad. Rex so cool.
Yeah, I don't understand why FFG hate Rex so much.
Why you hate me? I just oldest clone living.
Right. You know what? I will tell you guys, I'm working on getting Max Brooks on the show. He said he was willing to come on. The first question we're going to ask him, why do you hate Captain Rex? That's the very first question we ask.
Why do you love Oddball so much, and why do you hate Captain Rex? I mean, granted, Oddball's ability isn't great, but they just keep printing him.
That's right. He's going to be on the show. First question, guaranteed. It's happening. All righty.
I will say, though, Captain Rex in Legion is really good. So at least they shine somewhere.
Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and take Ahsoka Tano. Her ability is, it wants to be her pilot ability, but it's not that great because it's forcing a specific action. You got that red focus action, even though it's well stressed. When looking at the cost compared to what some of the other ones do, this basically ends up landing in that C tier with a lot of the other just kind of not as great gunner options when it comes to value versus points cost. Ahsoka, gunner, C tier.
All right, Commander Cody. I've seen a lot of people mix up Commander Cody or Wolfpack in terms of like effectiveness in a list and what they want to use it for. I think Cody does have some good potential. It's just a strain token though. If you miss, I'll go B tier with Cody. I've seen it be effective in higher competitive lists, but I don't think he's the reason why. Definitely feels more like a 5s than a Wolfpack.
All right, that leaves just Ghost Company. A Ghost Company can only be utilized on the lat, and the R2-D2 Y-Wing. The R2-D2 has struggles to use it because it doesn't have a white focus action, and it had to continuously rotate their turret. Unless you somehow put Ahsoka Tano with R2-D2 in there, feeding them red focus tokens, that's Rune Goldberg at best. I think it's actually not bad on a lat. It's 5 points right now to shoot a second time, but still not great. So it'll make its way into B tier. Very much.
It actually pairs up with Cody pretty well.
Yeah, these three are sitting right here. The people who like missing and taking double shots. If you're like that, I just think that it's one of the few ways to get consistent damage or better consistent damage out of your lat than any other like missile or any other upgrade you could do. Just shoot a second time. Just maybe that will actually help out your damage output. What are you gonna say, Marcel?
No, that's fine. I was just gonna say that I like it on Hound also, just because you can miss with the first shot with Hound if you're stealing.
If you steal depletes?
If you're stealing depletes from fellow Jedi, Patience Jedi.
Yeah. I really like Patience and Hound. That's pretty good.
I actually think for on a consistent basis, the combination that might be better to look at would be Ghost Company and 5s, right? And it's 1 point cheaper than Cody, and 5s can help continuously generate the focuses necessary to use on either both attacks, or say I'm going to take a lock now because I know 5s is bank that focus.
The nice thing about the lat is they have 2 crew and 2 gunners, so you can actually do all 3 cards.
Yep.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't put Ghost Company without 5s, but if you don't got the room, man, you got to make those sacrifices.
All righty, so our final ranking for Gunners, we got 7 Fleet Gunner at the S tier, Wolfpack at A, Ghost Company and Commander Cody at B, Ahsoka Tano at C, and Clone Captain Rex in the dumpster. All right. And last but not least, we have three cards. We're going to pull them out at the same time. Republic only, we have a single Force upgrade, a single elite pilot talent, and a single modification that are in the Republic, or specifically Republic only. I'm going to go ahead and start with Battle Meditation. Just because since I was last here. Battle Meditation is a card that you have to, of course, be building a very specific squad for it, but when it works, being able to coordinate two ships is really, really good. What we haven't seen yet is we have not seen it really shine. What we have seen, though, is the cost slowly go down. The higher initiative you are, the cheaper it's gotten. When looking back at when it was released, for an initiative 6, it started out at 12 points, then went 10 points, and is now currently at 8 points for the highest initiative. So everything else is, of course, also sliding down on that scale. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab Battle Meditation and say, if you can find its niche, you could be A tier, potentially, but you got to make sure that you're having the right other upgrades built around it.
Yeah, I just realized that Jedi General with Battle Meditation is 45 points.
It's solid.
4 points for Battle Meditation on an I-4 with 2 Force.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Is it me or Marcel? Marcel, did you go in the last round with Gunners last? It was me. All right.
Yep.
I will take Dedicated. 1 point cost, solid chassis to use it on. I think it is A tier. Has potential to work with S tier level pilots to help support them, but I don't think it's so good that you need to take it like other S tier cards would be.
All right. And last but not least, take that Synchronized Console, Will.
Yeah, and that's really I would love to put Synchronized Console in S, but it more often than not becomes a luxury. It's never necessary. And in fact, relying on it becomes this kind of Rune Goldberg machine. I think the most success is just like combining it with like Wolfpack or other ways to get free locks and stuff like that. I think it has a place, but its usefulness is pretty low. So I'm going to put it in B tier. If it costs anything more than 1 point, it would be probably in the dumpster.
I agree. One of the saddest things I've seen like on stream is somebody, having a couple one of these, and because of the order that they're shooting or the situation, they rather than spend a target lock in a situation where they probably should just spend the target lock, they're like, oh no, but I have Synchronized Console, I have to pass it. Like, no.
You don't always have to use every card you put on your ships.
That's right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this deep dive, because when I said deep dive, I meant deep dive. We went through everything. Full Republic. We cleaned out the cupboards. This probably means that Rebels, Empire, and Scum's going to take like 3 podcasts to get through. But you know what? This is the type of stuff that we have to do.
Not do them. That's a lot.
That is...
We've done them enough. They're original factions.
That's right. So right now, we... that is our deep dive into the Jedi faction. I will tell you, one of the things I'm going to plan to do with this podcast is on our YouTube channel. We're going to upload it in full, but I'm also going to upload it in pieces as well, so that we have full references for everything. And if you want to review a specific section, you don't got to jump around the entire podcast for it. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you had a good time. Remember, Flight Club Championship happening this weekend. The first qualifier, Alpha qualifier. If you want to partake, don't wait too long. And yeah, looking forward to everything. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be smart. Be safe. Gold Squadron